Welcome to the Mike White Podcast, where I, Mike White, share my conversations and book reviews through my journey to learn all that goes on in this amazing world. Buckle up and enjoy the ride.
If you're a regular listener of the podcast, you can support the show and help us grow by listening on Fountain, an awesome podcast app on iOS or Android. You can share your thoughts on this episode or simply say thanks by sending some sats with a comment. This is called the Boost. Getting started is easy. You can top up your Fountain wallet with a bank card or any Lightning wallet. Oh yeah, and you can earn sats just by listening on Fountain and being an active member of the community. Visit fountain.fm to learn more. All right, we are back on the Mike White Podcast. I am joined by Hodlers Official, the founder of Hodlers Official, Corey Secord. He's wearing one of those awesome Bitcoin jerseys right now, and you can get those online at hodlersofficial.com. I'll have the link in the show notes. That's awesome. You got the white version right there. You also got a version in black. That's pretty sweet as well. We met very briefly at BitBlock Boom. I saw your stand there and the awesome jerseys, but I really wanted to learn more about your story and how you got into Bitcoin. I know you're one of the few Bitcoiners up there in as Greg Foss likes to call it, the attic of the United States there in Canada. So how did you start learning about Bitcoin?
Yeah, I mean, I've always been interested in finance, in business. Like I went to school for business at Carleton in Ottawa in Canada. And I mean, I just remember, just being very curious about financial markets and stuff like that. And I kind of stumbled across Bitcoin. Like I wish I had somebody that kind of, I wish I had kind of somebody to hold my hand, I guess, through the process. But I kind of just discovered it all by myself. And I remember buying Bitcoin in like 2017 on Coinbase, and I bought it. I don't know. It was probably like $6,000 Canadian, so maybe $4,500 US. That's the right. I mean, it could have been different conversion back then, anyways. But I remember it like 4x'd from when I bought it, whatever it was. And I was just like, wow, this investing thing is so easy for me. And, I was showing, my roommates my little portfolio thing every single day. And I was in, university. So I was so broke. I didn't have any money to put into it. I didn't like the 4X didn't do anything to change my life.
Yeah.
But I was still really excited. And it was really like fascinating just to watch this thing. And, back then, people still really didn't understand it, myself included. I had really, like, I was like, wow, this would be great for, people in Nigeria or Zimbabwe or somewhere where, your government is kind of collapsing in real time and you don't have any type of stable currency. And so, obviously it wasn't until kind of a couple of years ago that like it fully kind of clicked in. But, and I'm still learning every day, obviously, right? But, that was kind of the journey in 2017. Go ahead.
So when you were first learning about it in 2017, did you recognize the difference between Bitcoin versus the other altcoins out there, or were you kind of just interested in general of the whole type of a broad cryptocurrency type thing?
Yeah, I mean, at the time I didn't know anything, so yeah, I didn't necessarily think that Bitcoin was. I was into the crypto stuff, I guess, at that time too. And, it took me a while to, figure out that Bitcoin is really something just completely different, really something special. And so I was, dinking around with crypto and stuff back then too. But learned my lessons, got my licks, and, learn the hard way, I guess.
No, I was the same way. I found Bitcoin originally I was looking into NFTs and the digital collectibles type thing and all those type of cryptos. I didn't really research those at all, but my buddy sent me a Preston Pish podcast and I started to listen to Preston, and then it kind of clicked. I realized, oh wait, Bitcoin is totally different. It's a escape from the fiat system. All these other altcoins are fiat 2.0 type they may have weird special purposes in the future, but it's super speculative and it's not money. What resources kind of helped you formulate your conceptual understanding of Bitcoin versus the other altcoins?
Yeah, I mean, I think some of the main ones that everybody talks about, like the Bitcoin standard, was pivotal, obviously. I really like the Breedlove series with Michael Saylor, and the Jeff Booth one's really good too. Just for like foundational stuff. I'm a big YouTube guy, so I was just, doing a lot of random, um, just, yeah, trying to find things on my own, but um, I would say Michael Saylor is probably one of the biggest, uh, yeah, people that kind of really narrowed my focus, I guess, like he likes to say, specifically just on Bitcoin, and just the way that he describes it with, as energy. And I mean, I'm not even going to do a very good job articulating his perspective, so I'm not even going to try. But yeah, Michael Saylor's, yeah, has certainly been one of the big guys that's helped me along my journey.
No doubt. And then when you see what Michael Saylor's doing with MicroStrategy and how he was able to convince a whole board and a whole company to go so heavy into Bitcoin, and if it does what I think it's going to do, I mean, I think it's going to cause a huge wave of other businesses, put in a large amount of their wealth, their savings into Bitcoin. Do you see that? I guess this is kind of a tangent, but do you ever think about like the future of Bitcoin and businesses? And do you have a theory of what's going to play out in the next few years?
Yeah, I mean, of course. I think that businesses are going to be adopting it, certainly as like a treasury reserve asset for their company and putting it on their balance sheet. I'm honestly surprised that more public companies haven't done it yet. I mean, I'm assuming that it's probably going to be soon. Maybe they're waiting for the ETF, but yeah, I'm surprised more haven't already. Like, inflation's pretty crazy. The world is pretty crazy. I mean, um, obviously, like, my business is on a Bitcoin standard, and as much as it can be, none of my suppliers take Bitcoin, and all the different subscriptions that I have in my business and all the other kind of costs that are associated with it, I do have to pay in fiat. Um, but yeah, I mean, there's some, even smaller businesses, like I know Tahini's out in Canada. They put their business on a Bitcoin standard right around the same time, I believe, or 2020, 2021. And they're like a shawarma restaurant. And so I thought that was really interesting. But I mean, overall, yeah, I'm surprised more haven't already. I don't know what they're doing to protect their balance sheet. I guess just not protecting their balance sheet, I guess.
Yeah, and I guess I've heard a lot about like the accounting standards, the whatever FASB, whatever they call it, how they it's not fair. It either is fair value or not fair value. I'm probably mixing it up, but they have to mark down their losses, so it looks terrible on the balance sheet if you don't really read more into it of like, oh, why they have to mark down the Bitcoin even if it shoots back up. But with that standard changing next year, I think that's going to be pretty huge for mainstream adoption. But we'll see. So you already had. So you said you studied finance and business in college there in Ottawa.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I just got like a general commerce degree. So there's a whole bunch of stuff that went into that, like finance, some entrepreneurship classes, some marketing stuff. But I mean, I went into business, like, when you're 18 or 17 and you choose to go to school, you don't really know necessarily what you want to do. But I knew that I was super interested in business and finance. So I figured I'd just go do that, and ended up learning a whole lot of Keynesian economics that I had to essentially unlearn in my Bitcoin journey. And I tell people this as well, that I feel like along your Bitcoin journey, it's a lot of it is like learning new things, but I find a big portion of it as well is actually like unlearning a whole bunch of, kind of foundational ways that you think the world works, I guess, and you think that finance works. Like I was saying, I learned a whole lot of Keynesian economics. All my professors and that's all they were talking about. And, I was getting tested on Keynesian economic theory. And so, yeah, it took just a lot of learning on my own to, um, yeah, just go down like kind of a completely different path from everything that I was paying to learn, which was kind of interesting.
Did you have to take like a macroeconomic class?
Yeah, I took how many economics classes I take? I think I took three or four. Um, yeah, I took like a macroeconomics like 101 kind of thing, microeconomics 101, and um, advanced economics something. I don't even know. I wasn't an amazing student if I'm gonna be completely honest, but so maybe there wasn't too much to unlearn actually,
No,
but but yeah.
no, that's good. I was just thinking how a lot of the Austrian economic people say that like macro isn't even like it's all smoke and mirrors. It's all kind of made up, all these fake or are these statistics that are made, but they're so subjective and it's not useful whatsoever. And it's like a lost cause. And I don't know if you would agree if Saifedean, maybe just reading Saifedean books would be a better economic education.
Totally, man. Yeah, of
Or
course.
have you read yeah. Have you read
Yeah.
the Bitcoin Standard? Do you recommend that one?
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah. And yeah, I wish I actually got to learn that earlier, rather than kind of the Keynesian economic stuff. And like you're saying as well, especially when you start learning about, Austrian economics and Bitcoin specifically, like, it kind of destroys all the models that you're traditionally um, pointed to, I guess, to read financial markets and understand economics. So I think it was maybe Preston Pysh that actually said that, funny enough. So um, many people have actually, I think, said that too. But yeah, it certainly breaks all the models of Keynesian economic theory. And I mean, yeah, it's pretty much forced everything that I've learned in school out the window. So
Yeah. I mean, you see just, I don't know if you follow Paul Krugman on Twitter. It's a tough follow because some of the nonsense he spits out, but how people think inflation is necessary and good. And there's like that 2% target is healthy. And I can see how it's like so difficult for people to conceptualize a currency that's fixed in supply at 21 million, like Bitcoin. Do you ever talk to like your classmates or friends about Bitcoin, and do they have similar thoughts or are they indifferent?
yeah, like most of like my, high school friends and personal friend group, um, I've tried to talk to them about the Bitcoin stuff, and some people are actually receptive. Most people are just interested in different things, like they're just not totally obsessed with Bitcoin like I am, which is totally fine. I was recently talking to one of my roommates that took business as well, um, and he works at a wealth management fund in Canada, and he's like a director of their division and really brilliant guy. I won't dox him, but you know, I just talked to him the other day. I sent him, the one of the videos I think is like really, really good, especially for normies to just, introduce them to Bitcoin is the Michael Saylor video, his keynote speech from Bitcoin Prague. He has a bunch of charts. I don't know if have you seen that one?
No, I'm gonna look it up after this. I'll put it in the show notes. What does he cover?
Yeah, so yeah, it's his keynote speech from Bitcoin Prague, and he has a whole bunch of charts. It's only a half an hour long, but essentially he just kind of goes over. I mean, he talks about Bitcoin, but like mostly it's just proving every other asset class and every other investment, and he's just kind of destroying the investment thesis for every other investment class, like commodities, real estate, stocks, fiat, obviously, anything. And he kind of shows like the what real inflation really is, which is, just like the supply of dollars in your economy, and the amount that increases rather than CPI, right? So I think that's a great one. I sent that to him. Um, and again, this guy's like brilliant, way smarter than me in school even too. And, he still doesn't really understand Bitcoin that much and just hasn't really looked into it, I guess. I'm pretty optimistic that he will come to some conclusions that Bitcoin is a good idea, at least to start looking into. And he's actually been, asking me some questions and stuff, which is good. But yeah, I think it's crazy, man. I think we're still really early, which is good.
Yeah, I think the number go up as much as, like, to me it doesn't matter. I think for adoption, it's going to take that for more people to take it seriously. And I don't know, maybe hopefully this is the last time before it's even more mainstream. But I agree, it's hard to convince people to prioritize it, to learn it, and like, hey, this is really important. When they're so focused on other things, and especially in America, the dollar works pretty well for the most part. We're kind of privileged here, but in these other third world countries, it's definitely even more important.
Yeah, I mean, relative to any other country, I guess the dollar works well. And I mean, yeah, I'm in Mexico right now. The peso is not even close. So, um, but yeah.
Yeah. And I want to get into, so your business desire and background. You said you had an inkling in coming out of high school. That's why you wanted to learn more about business in college. Did you have that kind of entrepreneurial mindset as a kid as well? Were you like one of those guys doing lemonade stands, or when did you think you got that thought in your head to start a business?
Yeah, I mean, I guess really where it came from is like just wanting to have like more freedom, I guess. And I saw having a business as really being the way to like, manage your own time and um, manage your income as well. I mean, I feel like, if you're on payroll as an employee, getting taxed as an employee, being forced into an office 9 to 5, like, you don't have control over your time or your money. Even if you're making a couple $100,000 a year, the government will take half of that. And
Yeah.
yeah, I was just very curious as to like how to break free of this. I've always been like an outside the box kind of thinker. I've always been trying to figure out what is going on because and I've never, um, yeah, I've never just like believed that, like, oh, we live in like a democracy that works perfect and everything is fair. And, um, like I've always been just like so curious as to what is really truly going on, I guess. And so, yeah, there's that part of it. But I'm also just like interested in finance in general, I guess. I remember when the pandemic hit, everybody had a whole bunch of time on their hands, and that's when I kind of really started leaning into Bitcoin and admittedly crypto as well. I had to learn some tough lessons along the way. But I remember like, I went to Staples and bought like 5 different notebooks, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna learn everything. I wrote, one notebook was for real estate, one notebook was for like commodities and precious metals and stuff, one was for stocks, one was for, I don't know, I was just trying to learn like everything. Um and I guess like kind of even before Bitcoin, one of the guys that was really influential on that part of the journey too was like Robert Kiyosaki. I used to listen to his podcast
Hmm.
all the time. Obviously his book is like, world renowned. It's got to be, I think it's like I think it's the best personal finance book in terms of sales or something of all time. Don't quote me on that, but it's obviously a staple.
It's got to be
Um,
up there. Yeah.
yeah, definitely. And so, um, yeah, I mean, and I mean, if Bitcoin didn't exist, I would probably be interested in real estate and things like gold. You know what I mean? I don't know if you ever think about
Hmm.
what you'd be doing if Bitcoin didn't exist, but um, But yeah, like I just generally super interested in finance. Yeah.
No, and that's talking about Michael Saylor again. That was one of the eye-opening moments of assets. How you're saying if there's not Bitcoin, that's why everyone flees to assets that hold their value. And while like real estate in the Hamptons, just that inflation is insane because people kind of recognize it's scarce and desirable, and its value is way more than the actual just like pure utility value. They're definitely using it as a form of savings, um, which Bitcoin totally flips that upside down. When that's where I hear a lot of the Bitcoiners say like once Bitcoin gets super prominent, the real estate prices aren't going to be near as high as they are now. But I still think that's going to take some time. So I'm not super bullish or super bearish on real estate like some people are. Do you? So you talk about you just buying all these notebooks and just say, okay, I'm going to learn about this, learn about that. What's your routine? Do you do like an hour in the morning and just scroll through YouTube, or how did you approach your learning journey?
Well, I was running a business at the time. Um, I had a painting business in my hometown, and so I was able to kind of schedule my time appropriately like that. And I mean, we were locked down as well, right? So in terms of like what my schedule or routine was, obviously it was a lot different and during like the heat of the pandemic. And I mean, Canada was locked down for seemingly like a decade, so I had a lot of time on my hands, and the government was turning off and on my business all the time. So I wish I could,
Wow.
I wish I could have, yeah, I wish I could tell you, that I would wake up at 5 a.m. every morning and do an hour of this and then move to this, um, but I mean, I think I quickly realized that the biggest opportunity, especially for like a guy like our age, um, was in things like Bitcoin. And so that's, I mean, I remember those notebooks didn't really get filled out too much in either of them. I mean, obviously you're spreading yourself really thin too, right? So, I learned a little
Yeah.
bit about all of these things, but I ended up kind of picking and choosing, again, admittedly crypto, but like, eventually that narrowed down to Bitcoin. So
Yeah. And do you find YouTube to be the best source for knowledge, or what? Or you prefer books?
yeah, I mean, I like YouTube and I like podcasts a lot. I was a big fan of
Yeah.
Anthony Pompliano as well. I think he was one of the big influences on the journey as well. He's got some great kind of, he's got like, yeah, like a 1 or 2 hour just him talking in the camera about Bitcoin. That's I think he made it in like 2019 or 2020 or something, but that's great. And I used to watch his podcast all the time. Uh, I don't know if you watched. He had something called the Best Business Show, which I was kind of sad that it stopped because that's how I discovered guys like Will Clemente and Dylan LeClair as well. Um,
Ah.
so yeah, I wish that podcast was still going on. I used to watch it on YouTube. I mean, I used to I used to be painting, like I'd go out if I had to physically do some painting because I had a whole bunch of employees, but like sometimes you just have to do what you got to do. And I'd just be listening to Bitcoin stuff all day long when I was painting. I mean, either listening to music or educating yourself. And yeah, I was just really obsessed with that. So um, yeah, big podcast guy, big YouTube guy. Yeah, I like books as well, but
That's
I would
probably one of the best.
sorry, go
Oh
ahead.
yeah. I'm just saying that's probably one of the best investments a person could make. I think one of these days is getting that YouTube Premium subscription, and you can turn your phone on, just have it in your pocket, and it'll keep playing, and just like a podcast. So you really have unlimited amount of content, and you could listen to throughout your daily activities, which is insane. Like before, people you'd have to break open a book, have a dedicated like study hours, sit down, and now you can learn all day pretty much. Pretty crazy.
Yeah, 100%, man. And it's awesome too, because I remember back in 2017, there just wasn't a whole lot of Bitcoin content out there. And again, like this is where I kind of wish I had somebody to kind of hold my hand and walk me through it, and also like tell me, just focus on Bitcoin too. But there just wasn't a whole lot of content in general. So when 2020 came around and content became this explosion, just because everybody was kind of at home, and that's something that creators could actually do from home as well, as create content, and they're getting paid really well to do that. Like the incentive structure just aligned for a whole bunch of amazing creators to kind of come out of that and explode out of that. So, now we're at a point where there's almost like too much stuff to listen to. But I mean, for people that are just getting into it maybe now, yeah, I mean, it's got to be great. And I mean, I still obviously enjoy listening to Bitcoin podcasts all the time and watching Bitcoin YouTube videos, and admittedly getting caught up doom scrolling Twitter as well. But there's tons of great stuff there. I love it.
No, and that brings up a thing I want to hear your opinion on. Is, as a businessman, business owner, you had the paint company, and now you're doing Hodlers Official. How do you approach marketing nowadays? And today, it seems like the traditional form of advertisement has greatly changed within the last few years. What do you think is the best tactic nowadays?
Well, it seems like social media it's not even an option anymore, right? And I mean, it's funny you say that, because like, I don't have a personal Instagram, I don't have a personal Twitter, I don't have anything. And I try, and I'm like a really small town guy. I grew up in like a town of like, there's 20,000 people there now, but when I moved there was even less then. And that's actually, the town I went to school in and played sports in and stuff. But the town that I actually grew up in had like less than 1,000 people in Canada. And I actually loved it. Like, I grew up like, kind of really off the beaten track of even the largest town in my area, like I was saying. Shout out to Huntsville, Ontario. But yeah, I grew up in like a town called Baysville, Ontario, really, really small. And so I've always really liked being outdoors, and it's not necessarily organic for me to like be on social media and be like a really active on social media and like posting pictures and stuff. And I that's the thing. Like, it's good that you asked this question, because like I feel like I'm so bad at the whole social media thing. Like, it's really difficult for me, I find. I love when other people will post pictures like, with the Hodlers official jerseys or something. Because then I can just, I'm just like, okay, excellent. I can just retweet this, or I can reuse this content. I never remember even to take photos, bro. Like, when I'm at conferences and stuff, I'll have an amazing time, like, and not get like any pictures. And that's fine, for just, my life. Like, I'm happy. But, it's like I was saying, it's like a requirement. You have to be active on social media, and I've even like asked some consultants, because like this is my first product-based business that I've ever had. So, just learning the whole e-commerce side of things, is really fun. I do enjoy it. But yeah, a lot of people who are giving me advice, which I do think they're correct in saying this, but they say like, okay, you need to post like 3 videos a day in like perpetuity. And I don't know how to, I can't even do that. And so, I post once a day. I find like I really make an effort to post like at least something once a day. And like it'll be like a picture, of the merch or something that's like aligned with the brand. Obviously I'll retweet stuff on Twitter and, comment on stuff and like stuff and whatever. But yeah, I'm really bad at it. And I mean, there's other parts to it too, where like, influencer marketing is huge in product-based businesses, especially like clothing stores as well. And some people have told me like, okay, just go up to, this Bitcoin influencer, tell them to put the jersey on and take a picture with it. And I just find that so cringy, like I don't necessarily want to go about it that way. Like, I think the way that I'm going about marketing, I guess, is just trying to make my products as good as possible and make my quality of service as good as possible so that other people can almost market it for me, and word of mouth can spread that, like, okay, you had a good experience interacting with my brand, or you had a good experience buying my products, or you talked to me in person and you had a good, chat or whatever, right? So yeah, I want it to be more organic. And again, I struggle with the social media side of things. I will tell a cool story about how kind of it all started too, like in relation to, like, I guess, influencer marketing. Because I
Yeah.
started this literally actually about a year ago today almost. Like, I bought the domain name, I think early November or late October, or Hodlers official. Um, and so I was working on the designs and finding, suppliers and stuff like that. And I, you know, settled on the designs and got all my stuff sorted out. And I remember I bought 100 because I was like, okay, worst case scenario, if the business doesn't work out, like, I can for sure sell 100 of these things. Like, I like them. I think they're cool. I would buy them, like, over the course of my entire life. I guarantee you I can sell 100. So, like, it's not the worst investment to buy 100 of these. And so anyways, I went to Bitcoin Miami and planned to, like, launch the business at Bitcoin Miami. And, like, I didn't know anybody. Like, I didn't necessarily have any friends in Bitcoin at the time. Like,
So that
again,
that was 2023. That was
yeah,
this year,
yeah,
or was that
just the Bitcoin Miami that passed in May. Yeah.
in May? Okay.
Yeah, yeah. And so I remember I traveled down from Canada to Miami, brought like 4 or 5 jerseys or something like that. And I created my social media and stuff, and, like, was posting saying, like, hey, we're a Bitcoin merchandise company. We're going to be unveiling our product at Bitcoin Miami. And so so I did, and I just ended up, like, wearing it to the conference and just, like, kind of gauging people's reaction and being like, okay, like, is this going to be something that I should invest more in? Like, is this going to be a product that people are actually going to like enough that I should, make this company actually start really working? And, I had my website up. It wasn't very good. But, I was ready for business technically at starting at Bitcoin Miami. And, just
Nice.
organically going around making friends and talking to people, and it was great. I had a really good time. Um, and I remember somebody wanted to buy one. And so I ran back to my Airbnb. It was like 3 minutes away. So hot. I was, like, sweating so much. By the time I got back, I don't think I stopped sweating the entire day after that. But, um, and so I gave the one guy the jersey, and I had a couple extras, and, or I think maybe even just one extra. And so anyways, at the time, Dylan LeClair is, like, one of my favorite kind of Bitcoiners. Like, I think his content is just, he just does outstanding work. I think his charts and analysis is really good. I mean, I think he has
He's
a lot
super
of,
sharp. Yeah.
yeah. I don't understand. Like, I would love to ask him, like, yo, why are you so smart, man? Like, I don't understand. Like,
He's so young. He's like,
I,
is he even 21 yet? I don't know.
exactly. I think he's 22. I'm not sure,
22.
but
Yeah. Something like
yeah,
that.
it's crazy. I'm like, did you not live through all the propaganda and nonsense? Like, how are you smart? How are you smart? I don't get it. So, anyways, but I think he's great, and, like, that's what I meant too. I discovered him on, like, Pomp's show, and so, anyways, I've been a big fan of his for a long time, and so I was carrying around with me a black large jersey, and I remember seeing Dylan on, like, a panel, kind of like in the middle of Bitcoin Miami. Because there's panels everywhere, but there's just one that's, like, kind of in the center of the conference, and they were on break. I could see, like, they weren't live, and I just kind of snuck up behind Dylan, and, like I tapped him, or I just, like, yelled his name or something. He turned around, and I turned around. I'm like, "Yo, what's your shirt size?" And he's like, "Large." And I look down, and I have a black large. And I'm like, "Okay, just take this. Like, I like your stuff a lot. Like, I'm a huge fan. Just take it. Like, just have it." And And then I just, he was busy. And so I just kind of just continued on my stuff and just, you know, went about my conference.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, and then later that night, he messages me on Twitter. I have like 50 followers on Twitter or something, like I'm a complete nobody essentially, right? And he messaged me, he's like, yo man, like this is really cool. I really like this a lot. Thank you so much. And he's like, I'm gonna wear it tomorrow on a panel that I'm speaking
Oh,
at.
wow.
Like Lynn Alden, Mark Moss, and Preston Pish. I'm like, okay, that's fantastic.
Hell yeah.
That sounds amazing, bro. Like, it's incredible. And so, I mean, literally yesterday, actually, I posted, a Throwback Thursday picture on Twitter and like Instagram and stuff, just being like, throwback to like literally day one of this company. And, there's this epic picture of Dylan. He's got the jersey on. He's got his hands in the air, like, on the main stage of Bitcoin Miami. And so, that was like, still probably like it's funny, like day one's like the peak of the business, I was just so happy. And so, I guess like to tie it all back to like the kind of influencer marketing thing, like that's how I would rather market the business, is like really organically like that, like I didn't tell Dylan to wear it on stage. And if I told him that, I don't think he would have anyways, you know what I mean? Like I don't want to be forceful or like cringy with the way I do marketing. Like I just want to make like really cool stuff and have people enjoy it so much that they market it for me, I guess, because I'm not good at it. So, I guess
It's so genuine too, like it's that they really are, and they value the product, and it's not just the paycheck. Question for that is like, what do you think was more impactful? The increase in sales, like you have so many more Bitcoiner eyes on that, and I'm sure it drove traffic to your website, or was it more of like a motivational factor of like, hey, this one of the Bitcoiners I really look up to and I love his content, he likes my jersey, he thinks this is awesome. What was more powerful there?
I think it was both. I mean, I went to Bitcoin Miami to, I guess, get the question answered as to like, should I do this? Like, and and immediately, Dylan posted his own pictures of him wearing the jerseys and, was interacting with my teeny tiny account. And he was very busy at the conference too. And, immediately like, my Shopify, I never got a sale on Shopify because it was like the day one, right? Immediately, like just like 10 sales, just like my phone's just ripping with sales, like like sales immediately. I'm like, holy crap, like this is awesome. And so, that's what kind of made me think like, okay, I should do this, like, and throughout the conference as well, there was a whole bunch of people just kind of jumping out of their way, just being like, yo, where'd you get that jersey? That's so cool. And, I brought a bunch of business cards too, and I was like, okay, well, if you want one, then, here's the business card, scan this QR code, it'll take you to the website and you can go get one yourself. And so I didn't have a booth or anything. I wish I did. But yeah. And so, I mean, it was really Bitcoin Miami that kind of made me, just say, I'm going to do this. Like, and here we are.
So was Big Block Boom in Austin your first booth? Because you had a booth right outside the conference room there.
Yeah, that was the second conference that I had a booth at. The first conference I had a booth at was the Canadian Bitcoin conference in Toronto. And I almost didn't end up going just because I also went to Bitcoin Prague just to kind of do the same thing as Miami. Honestly, it wasn't the best financial decision. Like, I don't know, it's kind of all over the place. But it was a fun conference.
That's a big flight.
Yeah, it was. I think I underestimated kind of what all would go into that, but it was still a good time. No regrets. And so I came back and I was really disorganized. Like I'd never had a booth before, so I didn't really know anything. And like this is all a learning journey. I've only been at this for 5 months. Like there's been a lot of learning. And so, I've never worked a conference with my own kind of products or anything like that. So, but like last minute, I was just like, okay, I'm just going to go to the Canadian Bitcoin conference. It was the first kind of inaugural event that they had. It was in Toronto, and it was fantastic. Like, again, like last minute, I kind of squeezed into the last booth they had, or they made an extra one for me or something. It was really kind of them. I, really am super grateful to Daniel and Manuela, the organizers. And so, and honestly, I sold tons of jerseys at that conference. Like it was great. There was like, it was kind of like an intimate conference too. There wasn't too many people there, but like a decent percentage of the people bought a jersey. And so, that was the first one that I ever had a booth at. And yeah, BitBlock Boom was the second one. And I mean, I've already kind of named all the conferences I've gone to. And like after that, I went to TabConf in Atlanta. Shout out to those guys too. They were awesome. That was honestly a really cool conference. And what else?
I saw you at Pacific Bitcoin just recently.
Yeah. I was trying to see if there was anything in between Pacific Bitcoin, but yeah, then Pacific Bitcoin, and that was fantastic too. I mean, obviously, like, I made a whole bunch of custom jerseys for the Swan team. Like everybody that works for Swan got like a Team Swan jersey with 21 on the back, and their own custom name on it as well. And that was the first time that I actually did 100% cotton jersey. So it's not like a t-shirt material. It's like an actual jersey, like super thick material, but it's 100% cotton. So, it's just more breathable, better for your skin, more comfortable. And, I put a lot of effort into making sure that they would be good. And so I was like expecting them to be happy, but like everybody was like over the moon. Like I got so many compliments. Like all three of the founders of Swan were like super, super thankful for like, providing the jerseys. And, like I worked out a deal with shout out to Nathan from Pacific Bitcoin as well. Like he's the one that kind of put this all together. But yeah, it's like, over what are we at, like 115 Swan jerseys that I got to partner with them and do. So I mean, I've been kind of on like a world tour since Bitcoin Miami. And
Was that
finished at Pacific Bitcoin. So
was that your idea to do the Swan jerseys, or did someone reach out to you? Because that's pretty brilliant. That's definitely a win-win on both ends.
Oh, of course. Yeah. Well, honestly, I just started making a whole bunch of different jersey concepts, and I was making like conference jerseys, essentially, like kind of memorabilia for conferences. And I made a Pacific Bitcoin orange concept jersey, essentially. And I was tagging Pacific Bitcoin in it and tagging Swan in it. And eventually, I don't know if it was Corey that saw it or somebody from the team that brought it to their attention, but they saw it was like an orange concept jersey for Pacific Bitcoin. And so I think it was Nathan, the partnerships guy, who reached out to me, and yeah, we quickly actually, it was kind of funny because I put out the Pacific Bitcoin design, but I also had made a Swan, like I already made like a Team Swan design. And
Oh wow.
so I jumped on a call with them to see what they would like to do. And they're like, yeah, we kind of want like a Team Swan one. And I'm like, oh, it's funny because like I literally have it made already, ready to go. And so we're kind of on like a time crunch before the conference was about to start. Like it was, I think it was like it was around like 2 months out. It takes like over a month to make the jerseys. Obviously, it takes time to like settle on like just different parts of the design. It takes time to ship them, stuff like that. So it was like, yeah, perfect timing to kind of get it all lined up and get it all done. But yeah, so yeah, I essentially just started making the designs, and from there, people were reaching out to me after. So,
Well, a few minutes ago you said you were bad at social media, but I find that is a great social media success story. And I wanted to touch more on that as well. So what do you think is, I think it's great to the fact that you can be in the moment, that you're not having to post everything all the time and have that mindset of enjoying the moment. But then, like you said, there's value in documenting. What is for you, at what point does it become too much of being on Instagram or Twitter, or have you kind of defined that point?
Yeah, I mean, again, like I'm a super small town guy. I really like being outdoors and just being like present in general, I guess. Like I think that life is precious. We don't really have a whole lot of time, right? And so I like to spend it not in the metaverse, I guess. Uh, and so, I try and schedule my posts in advance so that like the worst thing, and this happens like, enough that like, there'll be a gap in the content schedule and I'll wake up and I'm like, fuck, like I have to post something like in the next, I try and post it in the morning because I find that that's what is the best time to post. Like any time before like 8:30 Eastern time, I find is the best time to post, at least on Twitter. Like
Okay.
Instagram's a little bit different, but um, and so yeah, I'll wake up and be like, okay, like I have to find something to post in the next like 15 minutes, and so that stinks. I never like being in that position, so I like to be prepared, planned ahead, stuff like that. But I also
But what's
find,
cool? Oh, yeah. Go ahead.
well, I was just gonna say last thing. I find that on Saturdays, not really much goes on social media, at least on Twitter. Um, and so I feel like I'm not necessarily missing out. So sometimes I don't post stuff on Saturdays, and I try not to really even be on my phone that much on Saturdays at all, just because a lot of the businesses, you know, working on your phone or on the computer. Um, and I just started this new fiat mining job, which is, on the phone, on the computer. And so, yeah, like at least on Saturdays, I find that it actually helps just recharge your batteries so that you can get back at it again anyways. Usually Sundays, there's stuff going on Twitter and stuff and Instagram as well. And so, yeah, I'll jump on Saturdays or on Sundays, sorry, but I try and take like a day off at least.
Yeah, I think that's important. And what's so cool is you're saying you wake up and you're like, "Oh fuck, I got to post." But it's not like there's a boss telling you to do that. It's you wanting to do that, and it's got to be based on your definition of success. And I've been thinking about this a lot lately because I don't know. I think I could define mine better. Do you ever think about like what is success for Hodlers Official, or just you in general? What are your goals with that, and how do you define meeting those goals?
Yeah, I mean, like obviously you could measure success on some of the, like sales volume or, you know, followers on social media and Twitter and stuff like that, like those kind of, more measurable aspects of the business. But I don't know. I find like I don't like the reason I kind of started this all was like, number one, I've always liked sports a lot. I've always worn, Toronto Maple Leafs stuff. I've always liked wearing sports memorabilia as clothing, I guess. And uh nobody was necessarily doing, like Team Bitcoin stuff. And I was looking for a jersey like this. Like I was trying to find a Team Bitcoin jersey and I couldn't find one. So I was like, okay, I'll just make it myself. And like, you know, obviously like, you can like a product, but like the reason that I actually wanted to do this was like, I was so obsessed with Bitcoin and I didn't really have like a whole lot of like personal connections or friends that were like super into Bitcoin as well. And I mean, like this jersey, man, has like, gotten gotten me to have like so many amazing connections in the Bitcoin space. I'm able to go and at least make an excuse to go to like all these Bitcoin conferences. Um, I think like honestly, I think I'm just trying to position the brand right now so that when Bitcoin is more exciting and there's like I've looked at like Bitcoin merch or Bitcoin shirts or Bitcoin, memorabilia, if you look at Google search trends, that trend follows essentially the price. And so
Yeah.
obviously it's there's nobody searching for like Bitcoin merchandise right now, but I'm trying to position the brand so that when people do start to go look for that again, that, my brand is kind of like a more, not a even like, I guess, a household name to some degree, but more so just like, you can find it really easily, and it looks really professional. You have tons of followers on Twitter, so tons of like, credibility, I guess, reviews on the website, all these different things. Um, and I think that's when like the numeric kind of success or even like the financial success will kick in as well. But right now I'm just kind of defining success as like, like I was saying, of there's so many amazing people that, I have a huge amount of respect for, that are like big fans of these jerseys and like what I'm trying to do. And so, success for me, I guess, is like just, going to conferences and seeing like really cool people that I have a lot of respect for, like walking around wearing my jersey, right? Like that's success to me. Or like, having people post on social media wearing my jersey and like, just having a good time. And honestly, one of the coolest reviews that I've got about the jerseys as well is like that when you wear it, and you do have to be careful where you wear it too. Like you can't just wear Bitcoin stuff wherever. Like, I mean, I'm in Mexico and I don't wear my jersey. I love the jersey, but I don't wear it so much, at least where I'm at right now. And but one of the coolest reviews I've got is like, oh man, I was wearing a jersey here, and like so many people were just coming up to me being like, hey, like what is that Bitcoin thing? Like what's that all about? And like they said that like they just got into these amazing conversations with people and got these people interested in Bitcoin, like orange pilling them in a way. And so when people come up to me and tell these stories to me, or, again, I see tons of people at conferences wearing these jerseys, or people that like I really, like people that I've only seen like, seen on TV kind of thing, you know what I mean? But seeing them wear the jerseys, uh, that's success for me, and if that continues, um, then I know that like, the financial kind of success will come, especially once, I don't know if the economy has to completely burn down to like to kind of rebound again back
Yeah, I
to,
hope not.
yeah,
Yeah.
right. Um, but yeah, once the economy, I guess, gets better and people have more money to spend on discretionary items, or they print more money, honestly, and stimulus checks, I don't know what it's going to be, but especially, like I was saying with the trend line of Bitcoin merchandise interest on Google Trends, stuff like that. Like once all that comes around, financial success and, followers on Twitter and all that stuff is great. But um, yeah, I'm just happy that I'm able to provide some value to the space. Like again, like I just wanted to get into this because like I wanted to do something with Bitcoin. I was so obsessed, like, and not necessarily like a thought leader, like I graduated from, business school, learning dinky Keynesian economics, and like, I don't have I yeah, like I guess like this was the thing that I could contribute to Bitcoin, I guess, right? And so,
Yeah,
um,
well, if you can understand Bitcoin, you're a smart dude. Don't sell yourself short.
fair,
You're
fair.
smarter than most of the rest of the population out there.
I'm not a normie, right? So, but yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
um, but yeah, so I guess yeah. Long story short, yeah, that's how I define success.
I really respect the hell out of that answer, and that's what I've, fairly, I guess, recently come to realize. I think that's the way to do it. And I don't know if you ever heard of Sahil Bloom or a Gary Vaynerchuk, but I've been reading a lot of their stuff, and I think a lot of people always put some dollar amount and put a timeline, like want to by 30 years old, want to make $1 million or something like that. And that's not it's not correlated with happiness at all. And I think what you're doing, finding the things you're passionate about, making sure you're setting those Saturdays aside, like all that stuff is super, super healthy and long term great for happiness. And I think as long as you make that quality product and you're focused on that, the the other stuff will take care of itself. But um, I really love what you're doing out there, and I think Bitcoin is super important and a way to the lifeboat from the fiat system, and there needs to be more businesses like yours, and every little bit helps. So just thank you for doing what you're doing, and I'm excited to see the new jerseys or see it spread, and hope we next Bitcoin conference I'm gonna have to make it out to one, and we can catch up or get some coffee. I owe you something. I definitely need to get a jersey because I'm a big baseball fan and big Bitcoiner, so it's like a must. There's no reason I shouldn't get one.
Yeah, awesome, man. I got you for sure. And I mean, I know we're running up on time. I guess the last thing I'll say is like, if any Bitcoiners like thinking of um, starting a business, I'm sure it's the same thing for you, man. Like, once you just like do something and provide some value to the space, um, you get you enter into the arena where you are able to like connect with all these amazing people, make tons of, great friendships and stack sats along the way as well. If you as well, like if you start a business, like your tax situation completely changes as well. You can write off conferences, you can write off all your accommodations for conferences, all these things, and find some way to, I guess, contribute to like this amazing movement that's happening. Because I mean, that's the position that I was at. I just really wanted to do something in Bitcoin. Like I think a lot of people like literally on Team Bitcoin are
Yeah.
contributing like their whole life, all of their time to this thing. And that's what like I guess Team Bitcoin is about. You know what I mean? Like if you could define what Team Bitcoin is like a bunch of people that are, that have a stake in like Bitcoin's success, not just from a financial perspective, but like, they want Bitcoin to succeed, and they're cheering for Bitcoin to succeed, and they're doing things in alignment to help move this thing forward. And so, yeah, I mean, if you're on the fence about starting something, the market will tell you if it's a good idea or not. And you can always start again if it doesn't work out. But, I think that, yeah, it's awesome to just kind of be in the Bitcoin space and be contributing in some way. And so, yeah, if you're interested in contributing in some way, I would encourage anybody to do it.
Awesome. Well, I'll have your Twitter on the show notes, so if anyone wants to follow along and reach out or looking to start a Bitcoin business, any business, they can find you, and we'll have the website with your jerseys. But Corey, thanks so much for coming on the podcast, and I'll see you at the next conference.
Thanks, buddy. Yeah, it was awesome. I appreciate it.
See ya.
Thank you for listening to the Mike White Podcast. Be sure to follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Mike White Pod, and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Y'all have a great day.